maybe. The only one in the entire government I have any faith with is the head of the FBI. He's the only one who seems to be standing apart from the rest of them, saying, wait a minute, we have, 1,000 people under surveillance right now? Now, amongst those 1,000 people, how many of them do you think are Irish nuns in wheelchairs, the type that the brave men and women of the TSA pull out of a wheelchair to frisk at an airport? None. Polling agency said President Obama, Hillary Clinton, and other senior Democrats refused to say America is at war with radical Islamic terrorism for fear of insulting all Muslims. Majorities from both major parties said the U.S. is engaged in a conflict with radical Islam. 56% of Democrats, that's a shock. 70% of Republicans, as well as 54% of independents, believe the U.S. engaged in a conflict with radical Islam. 92% of respondents also said they regard radical Islamic terrorism as a serious threat to national security, which is a huge increase from last year. In addition, American attitudes towards the Islamic faith as a whole also appear to have shifted, according to the poll. Although a plurality of Americans, 46%, still said terrorist groups such as the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria do not represent the true Muslim faith, that number is down from 58% in February. 35% said ISIS does 35% of those polled said that ISIS does represent the Muslim faith. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the Paris attack last week, and of course now this attack in Mali. Here's another little news story, another tragedy. It's very hard to deal with. Jordanian officer kills 2 Americans at training site. You hear? What if it was your son? Ho-hum. Oh, it's some cracker's son got killed, you don't care? A Jordanian officer shot and killed 2 American military personnel and 1 South African during a rampage Monday morning. Oh, that's an old story? Monday morning. What's the date on this one? Oh, that's old, sorry. That's an old story. I'm sorry to read it to you. That's just another one. Another one killed by a radical Islamic. Sorry. There's a rampage around the world, but no, bring him more in. So I'm going to do again what I did earlier, because it's the best thing I've done yet today, maybe all week. I'll make it simple for those of you who went to Harvard. I'll make it simple enough for those of you who graduated from the Bolt School of Law. I'll make it simple enough so that even someone who went to NYU School of Law can understand me. You ready? Someone gives you a bowl with 100 M&Ms in it, all different colors. Black, yellow, white M&M, green, blue, whatever the color of the M&M is. And they say, here's a bowl of M&Ms, but I got to warn you, only one of them is toxic. There's a toxic M&M in there that if you eat it, you'll die. Now, would you be foolish enough to eat any of those M&Ms not knowing what color it is or where it's from? No, you'd throw the whole bowl in the garbage, or wouldn't you? You wouldn't let it in your house, would you? But you're willing to let 10,000 or 100,000 Syrian Muslims into America, knowing that 1% of them may be terrorists? I rest my case. This is the Savage Nation, your one-stop shop for clear thinking. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUI-CO. Attention San Francisco potheads. Massacre in Mali, 27 killed in brutal terror attack at luxury hotel. Finally stopped after 27 people were killed. God knows how many injured who will die, again from radical Muslims. This is while the world is on edge from a week ago where radical Muslims massacred people in Paris. Footnote, Paris massacre ringleader used migrant crisis to get into France, according to the president of France. Oh, you didn't hear that? It didn't make it to the San Francisco Chronicle, the genius newspaper that was once a decent B newspaper, that has since become an organ of Nancy Pelosi's enterprises. Paris massacre ringleader used migrant crisis to get into France, Prime Minister says. That didn't make it to your local paper, huh? Prime Minister Manuel Valls revealed Friday, just today, that he exploited the Syrian refugee crisis to slip into France unnoticed. It also emerged that Abdelhamid Abdaoud may have even taken part in the attacks on the ground in Paris, as a French security official said. A surveillance camera captured the alleged ringleader inside a nearby subway station as the massacre unfolded. Well, the main point is that he came in as a fake refugee. So how can you believe this deranged lunatic? Well, I won't even give you a name because you can fill in the blank. this deranged lunatic. Fill in any blank you'd wish. But we'll play the soundbite of one of them who's flying back on a huge airplane while, I think, attending a global warming conference. And you can hear him speaking from the power of his airplane, that they pose no more of a dangerous threat to us than tourists. Here is one of the geniuses of the world, surely in line for the next Nobel Prize, in clip number 2.
The idea that somehow they pose a more significant threat than all the tourists who pour into the United States every single day just doesn't jive with reality.
No, you don't jive with reality. That's the truth. The president doesn't jive with reality, but that's okay. The king has no clothes. And then, of course, we have John Kerry, another genius, again, who says that refugees have nothing to do with terrorism. Here he goes, clip 3, another genius in 3. Let's hear him.
It's inappropriate for America, of all countries in the world, to panic and to somehow turn our backs on our fundamental values. We have the ability.
You wouldn't know a fundamental value. Get off my show. No one's panicking, John. We're not turning our backs on our fundamental values. You know what our fundamental values are, John? Something that you don't know. Who do these guys talk to? This guy, John Kerry, must talk to his wife in 9 different languages at once. And at the end of it, he doesn't know what to say. So he comes up with this rubbish, our fundamental values. Then it's repeated by idiots on MSNBC and CNN. Fundamental values, fundamental values, fundamental values. It'd be a violation of our fundamental values. Well, no, the most fundamental value of a nation and an individual is survival. That's a fundamental value, morons. That's your fundamental value. So use common sense, morons. You don't eat the toxic M&M mixed in with the good M&Ms. Period. End of story. Don't bring it in. Isn't it wonderful how the liberals would not buy dog food with one, let us say, suspicious substance in the dog food? As I said to you earlier, they'll go to a pet store and they'll look at that bag for 25 minutes. They bring a magnifying glass, looking to see if there's a scintilla of aspartame, for example, in their dog food. If there is, they wouldn't bring it into their house. But hey, bring in refugees from anywhere on the earth and don't look and see if any of them might be terrorists, because then you might be racist or inappropriate. You don't want to be inappropriate, do you? The worst thing a liberal could be would be inappropriate. That's all I want to say on the subject. Liberalism is a serious mental disorder. Time for one quick call. Line 3, Carrie WVLK Radio. Go ahead, you're on the Savage Nation.
I just wanted to say I appreciate your laying out the chronological order of how we got to where we are now with Assad. I knew most of it, did not know about Israel's part in this.
Well, and remember, that's my guess. Because logic would say to us, wait, Israel has the most powerful air force and military in the Middle East. They've not done one thing that I know of against ISIS. Nor has ISIS ever attacked inside Israel. So I said, wait a minute, something's wrong with that picture. What, do they have some agreement with each other?
Well,
I mean, I'm sorry, it's just logical, isn't it? No, they got their Palestinian terrorists, their homegrown terrorists, the Palestinians, who are cousins of ISIS. And maybe ISIS can't get into Israel, so we can put that part of the equation away. But why has Israel not launched one air raid, airstrike against ISIS? They had many opportunities to do so, and they haven't. Because they're on the same page as America. They made a decision not to bring them down. Because they felt ISIS was going to bring down Assad, who was a great threat in their mind to their survival. Because Assad was funding Hezbollah. That's what I think their calculation was. That's a guess. I have no way to know if it's true or false. I'm sending you a copy of, well, if you name it, you gain it. What's the name of my book?
Government Zero.
All right, you passed the test. You know that the final exam is right after Thanksgiving. I hope you're all going to be ready for it. We're having a final exam on the show. You'll have 10 questions. You'll have exactly 30 days to answer these questions. And they're yes or no questions on the Savage Nation. Look, it's serious times, and we've got serious callers. Are any liberals out there awakening to the danger they've put themselves in through their tolerance? Is there anyone willing to raise their hand and stand up in this audience and say, you know, Savage, I listened to you off and on. I thought you were a terrible person. I didn't like you. I thought you were this. I thought you were that. And as I see what's going on in the world and I listen to you, I'm willing to step forward and say to you, Savage, you're 100% right. We've got to do what you say. We need borders, we need language, and we need our culture reaffirmed, and we need a strong nationalist as president. I'll take your calls when I come back on the Savage Nation. Again, the phone number is 855-400-7282. Yeah, the Council on Un-American Islamic Relations issued a statement condemning Trump for Islamophobic and unconstitutional comments. Well, I would say the Council on Un-American Islamic Relations is Americophobic and anti-constitutional, but then again, I guess you pay attention to the Council on Un-American Islamic Relations, not to me or Donald Trump. He actually didn't call for a Muslim database. But he certainly said we need to look at them a little more carefully. What's wrong with that statement? Why would that be a dumb thing to say when we're talking about M&Ms, like I said? Why are they attacking him? No, why? A, because they can, and B, because he's right. He's right. He's going to close the border. He's going to kick out illegal immigrants. He's going to look at mosques that are filled with hate, those that are filled with hate, more carefully. This is a terrifying thing to those who have infiltrated the country. Horrible if they've gotten away with this for so many years. A horrible thought that a new sheriff might come to town. You can't have him. No. Keep the borders open. Keep the people stupid and drugged. That's all. Okay, callers. Michael, KKOB. Welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hey, I find myself getting really frustrated these days because I'm surrounded by liberals over here in Albuquerque. How would you bring up a conversation with a liberal to get them to see the truth? What should I do to get someone to sit down with me and have a discussion about what's going on in the sorority house and in America?
Well, the question I have to ask you is on which topic, because it's too broad a topic. Are you originally a liberal or recently a liberal, or what's your politics in general?
I was way over on the left, and after listening to you for the past year, I've come over to see the truth.
Oh, my God. Don't let the government hear that, Michael. I'm sorry you let that out on the air. But nevertheless, okay, fine. So you've awakened to the danger we're in as a result of ultra-tolerance. So what subject is it that you would like to broach with your old liberal friends? Okay, let me lead you on this. I'll make it faster. The one subject that your ex-liberal friends might listen to you on would be Muslim terror. Isn't that true?
Yes, it would. Yeah.
Okay, so bring up Paris, bring up the bombing today in Mali, and say, isn't that terrible? What do you think about it? Let them start to talk. And then ask them who did it. Do they know who bombed in Paris and who machine gunned and tortured and mutilated the bodies in Paris? Do they know who did it? Say, yeah, well, were they Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Zoroastrian? Who are they? They'll have to say they know it's Muslims, but they'll immediately say they know that not all Muslims are terrorists. You say, I agree with you 100%, because some Muslims were killed by them, so you agree with them. And then you go into some analogies. Well, how do you prevent more of those mad dogs from coming into our country? Ask them what they would do. Let them explain it. Now, they probably won't be able to answer you because they'll start, their eyes will dart left and right, and they'll look to get out of the question because you've trapped them at that point. Because once you ask them what they would do to prevent the next attack by crazy Muslims, what do you think they're going to be able to say?
Nothing.
So rest your case, and you've already converted someone to reality.
Thank you.
You made them understand that if you don't want to eat a toxic M&M, you don't let the entire dish of M&Ms in your house.
Thank you, Mike.
And that's it. And I'm going to give you a copy of my book, Government Zero. Don't bring it to your friends, though, if you want to still have friends. You know, I got to tell you something, and this is a hard thing for you to swallow. Former liberals who've awakened to what danger they're in, you're going to lose friends. Just let them go. You don't need them. I did it over 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. I have very few friends. I could count them on one hand. You just have to learn to walk alone. It's that simple. I had many people who were my friends until they found out my politics weren't like theirs, and being the good, tolerant liberals that they were, they got mad at me. I had to leave them like childhood friends because they were just children. They weren't bad people, but they were naive. They were undeveloped. They were just espousing political ideas that were no longer relevant in the world in which we live. So you walk on your own, you walk to your own, as they say, beat to your own drum, or however you put it, and you learn to walk alone and stand on your own. You could do without friends like that. They're only going to weaken your mind and your resolve. What do you need them for? So you find other friends or you find other ways to live. Get yourself a poodle.